In the world of extension, soon after county fair time, our thoughts start turning to performance review season. We operate in our organization on a federal calendar year for programming and performance review purposes. So September 30th will bring about the end of a year. So we want to start preparing for that. So when we think of performance reviews, obviously it's an opportunity for you and your supervisor and your board to take stock in how things are going, where you are related to goals you may have set. I always like to think of it as a time for celebration as well. Because part of that performance review process that we're going to talk about here this morning is taking stock of what you've done in the past, however many months you've been employed with K-State Research and Extension. And I know when I do my annual performance review and have to sit down and reflect on what I've done in the past year, sometimes I'm actually surprised that at what I have accomplished. In our day-to-day busyness, it seems like we're doing a lot of things, but sometimes we wonder if we've really accomplished anything in the big picture. So that's probably what I enjoy about a performance review, is just that opportunity to sit down and take stock in what I've done and the accomplishments of the previous year. Performance reviews are also a way that we can reflect and determine some areas where we may need to grow and do some professional development. They're also an opportunity to plan for the upcoming year. Part of any performance review process should be setting goals for the upcoming year so that you know what you're going to work on, and you'll have some way to gauge at the end of next year what your accomplishments have been. Here in our organization, there are a number of folks who play a part in the performance review process. Obviously, you as the agent are a very important part of that process. Your board members will have the opportunity to fill out a performance review survey for you to give some input. Then if you have a local unit director who has supervisory responsibilities, they will play a part in your performance review, and your regional director. For those of you who are in smaller units where you don't have a local unit director, your regional director is going to play a more prominent part in that performance review process. So we're going to talk this morning about what you need to get together, what this process will look like. Lori's going to walk you in detail through some things in pairs. And then we hopefully will have time at the end for our coaches who have joined us this morning to give a few pieces of advice, and then answer any questions that you might have. A couple of things that I would mention here right in the beginning is that, I don't think anybody should be afraid or scared, anxious of the performance review process. It's a time for, like I said, reflection and growth. We do ask that, though, that you make it a priority. It is something that you should take seriously, and that you should block off some time on your calendar to take care of. It can take a few days to get the documentation done that we're going to talk about. And I don't want anybody scrambling that last week of September because you've procrastinated and put it off. So block off 2 or 3 days throughout the month of September to work on this documentation. Know that it's going to take time, and just give yourself the time to do that. So before Lori jumps in with the process, I also want to make a differentiation for some of you. You're all here because this is your first performance review, but depending on when you were hired into our system, things are going to look a little different for you. So there's a couple of you that just started here in July. You will not complete the extensive process that Lori's going to talk about. You will not do the self-evaluation in pairs, and your board members won't complete evaluation materials for you because you're just too new. However, most likely your local unit director or your regional director is going to check in with you and see how things are going, discuss your progress so far, and help you set some goals for these next few months on the job. Anybody that was hired before the 1st of July is going to take part in this whole entire process. So Lori's going to come on. She's going to talk about some resources that are available to you. Excuse me. Resources that are available to you. And then we're going to look at the process and walk you through it step by step. So good morning, Lori.
Hey, good morning. Good to see all of you here. And can I just second what Jennifer said about plan to hold 2 or 3 days or parts of parts of days in September and even August to do this. It will save you so much grief if you can plan to do this and throughout the month of September. I have lots of calls the end of September. Some of them I can help and some of them I can't. But it really is important that you block off some time to do this because it will take a bit of time. Okay, I'm going to share my screen because I want to show you first and foremost the resources, because even though we've recorded this session and we're going to post it on the website, and I'll show you where that's going to be, I think knowing where these resources are is going to be helpful to you in the process too, because we've tried to put as many resources together as we can. So let me share my screen. And the first, yep, there you go. The first screen that I'm sharing with you is the KSRE Employee Resources page. This should be a very familiar page to you, but you can see down here that we have a whole page dedicated to hosting resources for agent performance review. And so I'm going to just kind of review some of these with you and maybe give you some ideas about how this can be even more helpful. So the first thing that I'm going to see here is the Extension Agent Performance Review instructions. And this is a list of, let's make sure that, Jennifer, did it go to this page? the extension agent performance review check sheet?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry, I've got something over the window where I couldn't see you. Sorry, I've moved it. This is a checklist for you as an extension agent that tells you exactly what pieces and parts need to be done. There's all the action plan outcome reports, if you had success stories, and this is for any extension agent, not just new extension agents. And then it tells you a little bit about submitting the documents listed above, tells you a little bit about your local unit or your regional director, scheduling a meeting with each agent. And then at the bottom of the page, and this is an important piece, at the bottom of the page are the instructions for how you can post your self-evaluation or your self-assessment into PAIRS. PAIRS doesn't automatically do that for you, so you have to upload it into PAIRS, and I'll show you where that happens. But know that those resources are here and that checklist is here. There's also some checklists for the local unit director, which we won't go into today. There is also a board leadership video. If you happen to be the agent that's working with the board and you want to prepare them to do the performance review, there's a video that's already been put together that can be helpful. There's also a SMART goals template that we included in here because one of the things that you'll be asked to do as part of your performance review is to develop 3 goals that you want to work on over the next year. And your regional director or your local unit director is going to want you to make that as specific as possible and measurable as possible. So the SMART goals template is included in here. And then you have, we'll post after we're done with this meeting, we'll post the recording right here. So if you missed a point or a piece of information, you can always go back to it. And then you have all of the sample forms that you are going to see or your boards are going to see. You can see there's a board member survey for extension agents, for local unit directors that have administrative responsibilities, those directors with supervisory responsibilities, and then the extension agent self-evaluation. Okay, so there's those resources. I also want to show you the resources that are in PAIRS, because PAIRS has a lot of good resources for all of the modules, including performance review. And so this PAIRS webpage hopefully looks familiar to you. And so where you're going to find the support is under the question mark. And performance review is located under track. And so you will see when you click on performance review that it gives you information about how you as the agent can complete your performance review. So just wanted to make sure that you had those resources as you're going through the performance review process. So let me go back. Let me stop sharing for a second. And let me go back to, okay, I'm going to share a different screen now. Okay, I have been thinking about how we can simplify this, Jennifer, for agents. So I've got a list of 5 things to do. So this is something you might want to write down. So step 1 in this whole performance review process is to make sure that you have a 2022-2023 action plan in PAIRS. Now, for many of you, this is something that we've done as a part of new agent orientation, but there's probably a few of you that haven't gotten to orientation yet because we don't do that until October. So you'll want to make sure that you have a 2022-2023 action plan in PAIRS. That's our current program year. And to do that, you just go to plan and action plan if you don't have one yet. And Willie Wildcat, and by the way, I am working on the test version of pairs. So, this might look a little bit different than what you have, but you can see that Willie Wildcat, that's the account that I'm using, has one action plan already in there. If the screen that you're looking at doesn't have an action plan listed, double check that you've got the right year listed, and the current year that we're in right now is 2023. And make sure that your name is listed in here. But hopefully you will see an action plan there. So that's step number one. Make sure that you have an action plan, a current year action plan in pairs. So step two then, as a part of the performance review, every action plan has an action plan outcome. We do the action plan at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, we do the action plan outcome report, which just talks about the progress that we made on that particular action plan. So those are listed under track, under action plan outcomes. And Willie Wildcat does not have an action plan outcome report at this point. And so you would just hit the green button here and click on add. And once you do that, it comes up and you provide all the information in here. Now, one of the things that I would tell you as a new agent, I think some are probably going to think, well, gosh, I have to fill out this report about what I've done, and I'm a new agent, and we just haven't made that much progress, and that's okay. Your board members are going to know that. Your local unit director, if they have supervisory responsibilities, is going to know that. It's expected. So you can, as you're working through this, describe the work accomplished related to the linked action plan. You might put in information like, I developed coalitions, or I met with this organization and we're thinking about working together over the next year. Whatever that progress is, your board's gonna just want to know what kind of things you accomplished in the short time that you've been with Extension. And so as you go through that, you will see you will see in here the opportunity to provide some outcomes, and maybe you only have short-term outcomes that people came to your program and they reported that they had learned something new. And maybe you don't have any medium-term or long-term outcomes, and it's okay to say nothing at this time. Again, as a new employee, as a new agent, that's to be expected. That would be normal. Okay, so again, step one, make sure you have a current year action plan. Step two is to make sure that you have completed the action plan outcome report that tells what you've done over the last year. And then step three, and let me go back to the main page of pairs, is to develop your professional development plan for the next year. That will be the training and the opportunities that you plan to participate in over the next year. And there are, let me just click on this real quick. And you can see that I don't have a plan, or Willie Wildcat doesn't have a plan right now. So you'd go over to the add button. Actually, let me back up a step. See, even I have to back up a step and remember what the right things to do are first. So in your professional development plan, it really is better if you start with the event catalog. So these are all the professional development opportunities that have been put in so far. We've asked our program focus teams, and we've had specialists submitting professional development opportunities for the next year. And you can see as we scroll down through this page that there are 91 opportunities that are a part of this catalog. Now, what I would encourage you to do is to shorten that list and have it search by your program category. Now, even though this goes down only to livestock production as a part of that list, if you put in nutrition or youth development, it will come up. It's something that I'm working on with pairs to change, but it hasn't happened yet. So that will pare down the list. And in this case, when I put nutrition in there, it put 37. It has 37 opportunities. When you find something that you want to go to, you click it, you click on this little button, and once you click on it, it becomes green. And you click on the number of trainings that you want to go to. Hopefully, if you've got some of these events in here that are part of New Agent Orientation, go ahead and put those in there as well. So it's pulling up, and actually, we want to change this to 2024 because that's the next program year that starts October 1. So when we do that, and we have nutrition, food safety, and health, it just all comes on one page. So you click on a professional development opportunity, and then you go over to My Plan. And you create one, and you start to fill it out. You could have the program area, the core competency that you want to focus on, and you can see all of those ones that I clicked on appear right here. These were the ones that I clicked on in the catalog, and so they automatically move forward in my plan. You also have the opportunity to add other things. If there's something that's not in the catalog that you really want to go to because it's going to help you, you add another activity, you put the required information in, and you save. And that's essentially pretty easy to do. Jennifer?
Will you go back to the event catalog real quick?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to point out that you can also search by core competency. Because as you're picking your professional development opportunities for the next year, you want to look at a balance between developing those core competency skills that are all listed there and your subject matter expertise. So just use both of those tabs as you're selecting. And Laura, we have a question in the chat. It's a great question. On average, how many professional development opportunities is it recommended that new agents put on their professional development plan?
That is, sorry, that is a great question. There aren't any specific guidelines. I know when I was in an agent position, you know, I was looking, it really kind of worked out to be about 10% of my time. So about 20 days, 21 days would be the appropriate amount of professional development. Sorry, I've got it tickled, Jennifer.
That's fine. Happens to me all the time, as you know. But yeah, I would agree with that 10-day or the 10% of your time. And you'll see that not everything that's in here is going to be a meeting, or I saw some like the Southeast Region FCS monthly connection calls. There may be self-study courses that you want to include in your professional development plans, or you know, maybe there's a short course you intend to take, a book you want to read for professional development. So those would all be things that back on your plan you could add. But just trying to give a good picture of what you would like to do as far as professional development in the next year. You know, there is a chance that after you sit down and you have your performance review discussion with either your local unit director or your regional director, you may discuss something that wasn't originally on your plan and may be asked to go back in and edit. And that's normal and completely okay.
That was
So-
great. Thanks, Jennifer. That I'm glad that you added that. There's going to be a few professional development opportunities in here because I've reviewed them all. There's a few in here where the dates haven't been determined yet, but on each professional development opportunity, you have a contact person. So you can connect with them and maybe, you know, in a month or two, see if they've been able to finalize dates. Or often they work with program focus teams, and so they'll send out an email to the program focus team, or they'll put something in the KSR resources team. So just know that a few of those we have dates that aren't certain. Now, the professional development plan, I want to go back to those of you that were hired after July 1. You do need to do a professional development plan in pairs. We want you to be able to have that. It will be in there so that your regional director or your local unit director and your board know what kind of training you're going to be going through. So that is something that we'll want you to do. Okay, that was step 3. Step 4 then is that you will want to have an action plan, 1 or 2 action plans for the next program year that starts October 1. So this is telling the board and your regional or local unit director what programming you plan to do for the next year. And so again, you go back to action plans, you change the program year to 2024, and you can see Willie Wildcat doesn't have anything. And then you just add, and it will bring up the screens that you need to be able to determine which action plan, which 1 or 2 action plans you want to focus on for the next year. And this is also something that our folks, let's see, Jennifer, I'm trying to make sure our new agents that were hired July 1, will they come to orientation in October? Okay. So the action plans for next year, we will spend some time talking about how you determine an action plan for next year. So for those of you that were hired after July 1, you can add one now, or you can wait until we get together at orientation. Everybody else that was hired before that will need to have an action plan because it's a part of the performance review, which all has to be completed by October 1, or if your local unit has an earlier date. Okay, so 2022-23 action plan, the action plan outcomes report for 22 and 23, your professional development plan for the next year, your action plans for the next year, and now we're ready to get to the self-assessment in pairs. And so where you find that is under track and performance review. Now, don't pay attention to the fact that there are 2 listed for Willie the Wildcat. There will only be 1 listed for all of you that were hired before July 1. And so you click on the one that is there. And so this is just the beginning page for the 2023 performance review. And the way that you get into that is to go to edit. And that starts the process. And so when you see this 2023 action plan outcomes, what you do here is click in the box and it will show you what action plan outcome reports you have done for 23. And you click on it and it puts it in the box. Now, I don't have an action plan outcome for Willie the Wildcat. But same thing goes for the professional development plan. Have a professional development plan and it will bring it in there. You have to click on it and bring it up in there. And the same goes for the success stories. Then there's a place here for your goals for next year. A part of the performance review for every agent is to identify 2-3 goals that you want to work on for the next year. Now, this will be information that will be provided to your local unit director or your regional director, and the board will have access to that information. And so when you get to your final visit with your director, there'll probably be some conversation about the goals that you listed, and maybe there'll be some refining of their goals, or maybe your director will have some suggestions about another goal to add to it. But this is your idea of the goals that you want to work on for the next year. And then there's a file attachments section, which that's going to be important to you as we go through this. And so I'm going to see if it will allow me to go to the self-assessment, and it did. So this is the self-assessment that is a part of the performance review. And as an agent, there are 7 questions on here. Describe the progress you made in achieving the performance goals that you listed last year. And it's okay for you to say on this, I'm new, I didn't have any goals from last year, but this is what I've been working on since I was hired. Describe 2 to 3 areas where you have excelled in the past year. It's your opportunity to provide whatever narrative you'd like your board members and your director to have. 1 to 2 areas where you plan to focus on continued improvement, working with PDCs, describing the underserved audiences that you might have worked with. And then there's a section for sharing any additional highlights that you want them to know about, and also other comments. And then be sure to try to watch the word count on there. We do that mostly because we want to be as concise as we can for our board members, because there's a lot that they have to review. And so then once you've filled all that out, because peers will not automatically add this to your performance review so your board members can see it. So what you want to do is go up here, and I'm using Google Chrome this morning, and go up here and print it as a PDF. Mine's being kind of slow this morning, but I just want to save it as a PDF. Save it someplace where you can find it really quick. And then when you go back to supporting data, you upload it right here, and it's really easy to do. Click on the browse files, go find where your document is, upload it, and then be sure to save. And you want to make sure to do that so that your board members will see it. And that really is, once you've done that, you've got the supporting data in there, you've got your self-assessment uploaded in your file attachments section, then you can mark it as complete. And a message will go to your director that says, you're all done. You've submitted everything and you're all done. Now, if for some reason you've forgotten something, you can't go back in and make any edits unless your director has unsubmitted it. There is a process to do that, and we'll talk with the local unit directors about how to do that when we visit with them at the end of the month. But there is a way to get back in the system. It just takes some extra steps. So, Jennifer, what have I missed? What have I skipped?
Well, one thing I would mention on that self-evaluation, the very first question where you're to discuss the progress you've made at achieving goals. Each one of you, as a part of doing your setting yourself up for success assignment in your Canvas course, really set some initial goals for yourself. So that would be a good thing to refer back to and reflect at how you're doing based on those goals. And then, Lori, there was a question from an agent that says, my created performance review is for 2022, and I can't edit since it is already closed.
See, I'm not seeing any of the questions. So say that again, because I didn't quite catch everything.
My created performance review is for 2022.
Oh.
And I cannot edit it since it's already closed.
Actually, here's this, the performance review season is going to open on Tuesday of next week. So that's a really good information, and I'm so glad somebody asked that question. So you won't see the 2023 performance review until Tuesday of next week. I only got in because I created a special performance review plan right now. So don't go looking right now, but on Tuesday, you will see the 2023 performance review plan. Oh, that's such a good question.
And Lori, there's typically a message that goes out that says that the PAIRS system is open. Yep. Probably be in the Tuesday letter next week.
There's actually a message from PAIRS that goes out automatically. And then yes, there'll be a message in the Tuesday letter next week that has some, has the similar information.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I know I hope that we're creating some excitement around getting your performance review done. But don't try to do it this afternoon.
Yeah.
Or on Monday. I would imagine that there may be still a few professional development opportunities trickling in to that catalog. So
yeah, professional development opportunities can be added at any point. So, I mean, I even get them, you know, after October 1. So that's one of those things that more things appear at the later we get.
One thing I do want to mention, and you touched on this very briefly, Lori, is all of this is due into the PAIRS system by October 1. Shortly after October 1, PAIRS will close for the reporting season. And folks will not be able to get in and make any corrections, changes, or start if you've procrastinated. So no, do not procrastinate.
That's exactly right. October 1 is the due date for getting all your performance review documents done. We will also send you a reminder on or about October 1 that your quarterly effort report is going to be due on October 5th. So at this same time, we also encourage you to complete all of those program activities that are done, you know, the programs that you've done that you're still trying to report in PAIRS, try to complete those during that same time. So again, that's one of the reasons why Jennifer and I really encourage you to block off several days in September and not just all in the last week, because there's a lot of things to remember. Now, what I would tell you is that even though the new program year starts on October 1, in pairs, we delay that until about October 15th. We give you about a 2-week grace period to finish up all the reporting that needs to happen in pairs for the last reporting year. So it gives you a little bit of extra time to complete those program activities and to get your quarterly effort reports all done. But that after that 2 weeks is up, on October 15th, I believe it is, we'll start the new program year, and you can't go back and edit some of those things that were in the last program year.
But I do encourage you to check with your regional or local unit director to see if you might have an earlier deadline. I know that some of our local units get a jump on this process. They want to discuss it at their October board meeting. And so therefore, you may have a September 20th deadline. So that will be a key thing to ask your local unit director.
And Jennifer, Tristan put in here essentially saying that she likes to block off at least 3 days because it can be pretty time consuming. And I appreciate you jumping in there, Tristan, and saying that. Especially, and I think part of it is if you stay caught up with your program activities. I would just tell you, and maybe some of this will be helpful to some of you, but at a national conference that I was at, I sat at a table with somebody from another state, but they also use pairs. Pairs, by the way, is being used by 12 states on the extension side. And so I was sitting across from her and just asking her questions about pairs. And she says she blocks off 2 hours every week to do reporting. And that helped her stay up. Now, not all of us do that. I had a tendency to wait until the last minute too. But for those of you that can do that and block that time off, I think it's a great goal.
Okay, what questions do you all have?
Hey, Lori, would you mind cliff noting your 5 steps again, just for my notes to make sure I have them all down?
I can do that. I will put it in the chat.
A question I have as kind of a new person, would there be value in maybe shadowing someone in your district while they worked on theirs, if they would let you? Just if they would let you. Could I spend some time watching what you're doing and maybe take some notes?
Absolutely. Either your local unit or if there's another agent that you're comfortable shadowing, that would be a great opportunity just to see how it's done.
Jennifer or Lori, I don't know if this is allowed technically, and maybe it's just like a personal preference, but when I first started Extension, my first program reporting system or the performance review, my mentor at the time actually shared with me her evaluation. So she was able to share, like, this is what mine looks like. Now I've been in the system this long, so it may be a little bit different, but this at least gives you a general idea of what your paragraphs or kind of what that verbiage could sound like. Is that something that you would say could be recommended at this time?
I mean, I think so. And you can actually go in and search anyone's action plan outcome reports in pairs. So if you're not sure what this should look like, what you should be saying, how much you should be saying, I would recommend searching another agents.
And I think that'd be especially helpful too for those that have similar disciplines or chose the same action plan. And you can always email them too after you see that searching on pairs and be like, hey, Annie, I saw that you did this. I did the same thing. And then ask them a little bit more in-depth questions.
Yeah, I would preface that by saying not every action plan outcome report that you see in pairs is a great one. But yeah, I would say contact members of the coaching team, or Lori and I, if you want us to point you in the direction of somebody's to look at, we can certainly help you with that. Tristan, what other advice would you have? Or I see Liz is on. James, I thought I saw James on here. He might have had to have dropped off.
Yes, so there's kind of like two different pieces that a few different pieces, because there's different pieces of your performance review, right? You have your action plan outcomes, you have your SMART goals, you have a few other things, then you also have like the narrative, and depending on when you were hired, it's going to be a little bit different, just as Jennifer and Lori said. But like I posted in the chat, I do typically block off 3 days, and I block them off back to back. And I do that because I like to spend some quality time drafting that narrative, because that is what your board or your director are able to see when they go through and hear of all the amazing things that you are doing. So for me, I like blocking that off because I take time to go through and I have everything, and I actually create mine in a Word document to make sure that everything saves nice and neat, which a lot of that has changed a little bit. So it should be helpful for you guys. But I type through all of that, and I kind of go back through and I print out all of my past board reports, because on the past board reports, it's my monthly report that I do, that I hand to my board, that says all the amazing things, right, that you do over the course of the year. So I pull all of those and I have them there with me. During that time, I kind of go through when I'm looking at all of the different things that I offered. And so I'm able to pull from that and say, this is an area in which I really excelled by creating or pulling a new audience into the program that I'm offering. Or this is an area that I was able to utilize my volunteers in a way that I had not utilized them before. Or on the opposite side, this is an area where I'm seeing now, looking back, that I did not reach a target audience, or that I want to explore further. And so really printing out your board reports is helpful, especially if you're a visual person like me, to be able to go through and kind of get that overview or get that big picture narrative. I also typically have like my calendar pulled up. So I like flip back through the past couple months to see if there's anything that I did not include on my board report, or that are just big events that happened that you're like, oh yes, I held a Safe Kids Day in partnership with 15 other community stakeholders, and we had 300 people come, and that was a really big event for our community. It saved taxpayers funds by attending this event because of X, Y, and Z. So there's like things that you do that happen that you may totally forget about because you moved on to the next big and great thing. But using your board reports and using your calendar are two things that I think will be helpful when you're drafting your narrative or even looking at your outcomes for your action plan.
Excellent advice. Liz, what do you have to add?
For the outcomes, FAIRS has a way to retrieve all the evaluation responses. It's on the track. And then I can't remember what it is. It's like response by workshop or something. I can't remember. It's not open, so I cannot hear. But
Response by survey, Liz.
exactly. And then you can go and retrieve every responses that they have in your evaluation. That I look a lot of that, although I have a file that I put all of in my file in the computer, because I have a question. I'm a person that I like to say, write stories or quote what the parents have said that I learned about the importance of spending time with my kid. My goal is like every day I will read to my kids and stuff like that. What is the balance between the stories and the percentages of a response?
Liz, I think both are important. I think the stories are super valuable, but I also know that the numbers are good too. One of the things that I know that we're encouraged to do a lot is to be able to say how many people participated and then do, 75% said XYZ. But yeah, I think both are super valuable.
And I agree with Tristan, block those days, but do not do it the week before. Because you're going to freak out if something is not working, and then you have the time to start asking questions. Another thing that maybe if you have the action plan for last year, there are many things that maybe you're going to continue to do it. So if there's a way to copy what you have and then update what you want to do for next year instead of like starting from scratch.
Great. Great advice all the way around. I'll pick on Lisa Newman, because Lisa, you may be a new agent right now, but I know you've done reports before. What's your advice?
It's largely been shared already, but my biggest thing that I always tell people is to block out the time, do it early on. Like I've already had my September dates blocked pretty much when I came back in January. I went into September, blocked those out. And I'm glad I did, because I'm going to be gone pretty much September 8th through the 22nd in September with State Fair and National Conference and another training that I'm going to participate in. And so I'm really glad that those days are already reserved. And I've already actually started working on a lot of the reflection questions because I'm a thinker. And so I would just echo those sentiments of being really strict with carving out those dates in your September planner each year, and then taking the time for reflection, because this is not something that you're going to want to just sit down September 28th and just think you're going to knock it out. Allow yourself the time to reflect and look back on all the good work that you have been doing, because some of those things, like Tristan said, won't appear, or you maybe didn't include it in a board report. And so you just don't want to miss those opportunities to be able to share the good works that you've been doing. And thirdly, or lastly, or whatever, ask questions. Don't hesitate to reach out to someone that's in your office or in your district, or even an agent close by in a neighboring county. Reach out and ask any questions that you have, in addition to Jennifer and Lori.
Super, thank you, Lisa.
And I have to say that reporting is kind of like, so for so many people, it's like, I don't want to deal with this. But I promise you, when you finish, you feel so fulfilled of all your things that you have accomplished. Because I forget what I have done. But when I started looking for the information and putting this, like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. So you're going to feel very good at the end. So start for step number one, and the rest will come.
Alisa, as a regional director, do you have any additional advice that you would give?
Well, again, I think a lot of the best thoughts and best practices that I would recommend have already been shared. I do think one of the most important things is, and Jennifer stated this early on this morning, is not to really fret or be nervous or apprehensive about this process. And one of the largest benefits, I believe, and this is just because of the way I am and the way I think, I always want to know I can always get better. We can always learn something new and get better. So that's one of the things about the performance review process that I value, is what is something that maybe that's shared with me that I need to work on, or I need to improve, or I need to get better, because that's where I want to be in the end, is the best that I can be. So again, allow yourself time to think and process and take it serious. as you are a professional in this role. And it's a very important part of the work that you do. And don't hesitate to reach out. Don't struggle with it. Don't struggle with pairs. Don't sit there and struggle. There's lots of people that give us a call, will help you get through it.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, Elisa. Lori, one more time, because I know sometimes the biggest frustration can just be, how do I get pairs to do what I want it to do? Show us where the pair support is located. You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Happy to show you where that is. You should be seeing my pairs homepage, and let me get rid of that. Okay, so right over here under the question mark, you want to go to support. You will see their contact information is right there. I have done both. I have emailed and I have got them on the telephone, and I can tell you that they are awesome in helping. They are very timely, and they know that our state and a handful of other states have the same time frame. So they're going to be on top of all of the questions and be ready for you. So you can always give them a call. I will tell you that there is no such thing as a dumb question, because I've asked them all, and they've been very nice to me. So feel free to call or email them. And then if you're wanting just steps about performance review, you can go down to track and performance review, and there is your completing your performance review agent instructions. And don't forget the instructions that are on the agent performance review page.
Great. And we have been recording our webinar this morning. So if you are a little fuzzy come 3 weeks from now when you're working on this and you don't remember exactly what you need to do, feel free to refer back to Lori's instructions that she gave today. We will post this webinar on the performance review page in KSRE resources. All right. Any final questions? Well, if not, we wish you all the very best. Please reach out if you have questions with this, and have a great Friday and a great weekend. See you, everybody.